Okay, is everybody happy with their sleeping arrangements and their level of hydration?
No. I am.
I mean, what I'm trying to say is, can we begin, please?
No. Oh, Daddy.
What?
I don't have a blanket.
Okay, let me tell my story and then we'll figure out the blanket, okay?
I can take it.
Once upon a time, in the land of Georgia, there lived 3 young brothers.
It's not a story.
No. Now, these brothers were just the coolest kids. They were super brave, and they loved to horseplay and wrestle and fight each other and play with toy swords and shoot bows and arrows and all this sort of thing. So one day, they were, the reason they were in Georgia is because they were on a vacation. And they were visiting friends and family. And they were staying at a friend's house. Now, the friends weren't there, but the 3 boys, they liked being in a different house and sleeping in a bunk bed and like exploring and seeing new toys and stuff. And even in the, they discovered there was a basement, and down in the basement, they found like cool toy swords and a crossbow, and and a horsey and a fake airplane. Yeah.
Fake toy car.
Yeah, I mean, there was all kinds of cool toys down there, and they loved it. So that night, when they were laying in their bed, their dad had already left after praying and telling them a story and stuff. And they're just laying in the bed. They're all just kind of whispering to each other. And then they heard something. It sounded like it was coming from outside.
Mean under the bed?
No, not under the bed. It was coming from outside. It sounded like this.
A wolf. A wolf.
And the little brother, he said, "Is that a dog?" And the middle brother, he said, "No, I think that's a wolf." And then they heard 3 or 4 of that sound all together. And then the big brother said, "I think it's a whole pack of wolves." Now, earlier in the day, they were sitting with their dad, and he was goofing off on his phone, and he was reading the news, and he had told them that in Georgia, there was a pack of wolves that was going around terrorizing neighborhoods, and it was like eating people's cats and dogs and pooping on people's front porches. And just being a menace. But nobody knew what to do because wolves were like super scary and strong. They were like dangerous. They were like the biggest, strongest kind of dog.
Get a pet grizzly bear.
Well, that's one option. But anyway, so...
And a dog.
Yeah. So these boys were laying in the bed at the house where they were staying, and they kept hearing it outside. So they said, "You know what? We need to go investigate the sound a little more." But they didn't want to go without any weapons or something or anything like that. So they went down into the basement where they had found like...
They got the class. And they had a secret Lego and the secret...
So they went down to the...
And the secret passage.
Yeah, they went down into the basement where they had found the Nerf crossbow and the little toy wooden swords. But when they were like getting that stuff, they started thinking, man, these weapons are toys. Like, we might not actually be able to do anything against some real wolves. And that is when the littlest brother, he said, "Guys, what's that?" And back behind some boxes, like in a dark corner of the basement, there was a door that they hadn't seen before. They said, "Hey, let's go see what's in there. Maybe we can find, some higher quality weapons." So they got a flashlight, and they went and they opened the door.
And there was a bed. And it was the sewer.
No, but it was a little secret passage that led to a closet that was a full-on medieval armory. It had real metal swords and real crossbows with razor sharp tips and all kinds of battle axes and other weapons that they could use. They're like, man, if we were to get some of these weapons, they had shields and armor. They said, if we were to get these weapons, then we could go out and we could kill those wolves, even though they're super dangerous and scary. We're the 3 bravest brothers in the entire state of Georgia. Nothing can stop us if we've got these weapons.
In the world.
So they started putting on armor, and the oldest brother, he put on a helmet and like these shoulder things.
No, there was a statue of a knight. He crawled right inside it and took its armor.
Exactly. That's exactly how he did it. And the middle brother, he put on some armor too, but he wanted to be able to run really fast, so he didn't put on as much, just like to cover the important spots like his heart and his head. And and the little brother, the littlest one, he put on, it was like a little kid armor, and it was painted red. And believe it or not, he looked just like the Red Ranger, except a medieval Red Ranger. Blue Ranger, that's what I mean. Blue.
Ranger.
Yeah, because
Black Ranger's the best because he doesn't get seen, and he gives them the signal from the wolves, and the other ones jump out.
exactly. All of their armor was painted black, red, and blue. And they all armed themselves with crossbows, extra arrows, a sword, a dagger, a battle axe across their back.
I have a battle. No, there were lances too.
And lances too.
And there was a battle axe. Oh, and there was a normal bow, and there were also daggers and
Yes.
swords.
So they got all of their armor.
Daggers. Oh, but then they saw something.
No, Liz, it's my story.
But Daddy, what about the pink and yellow armor?
No, this is the only armor. So the 3 brothers crawled out of the secret passage, and then they heard it again through a window in the basement.
Wait, Daddy?
What?
How do they get out? The basement has a door leading to the ground where the wolves are.
Let me tell my story. You'll figure it out. So the littlest brother, he got a little scared, and he was kind of shaking, and you could hear him shaking because because the armor made a lot of noise.
And then the oldest brother.
And his 2 big brothers, they said, little brother, remember what our dad taught us. Always be courageous and never be afraid. We will defeat these wolves as long as we fight together. And they gave him the courage that he needed. And he said, okay, big brothers, let's go get him. So they opened this door that led out of the basement, and they walked through the backyard and into the woods. They crouched down low, and they listened for the sound. It was off to the north. The middle brother, who was in black, he said, I'll go scout it out. They won't be able to see me because I'm in black. You 2 climb a tree and wait for my signal. Exactly. So he started crawling through the bushes and making his way through. And that's when the middle brother in the black armor, he saw them. A whole pack of wolves. They were circling a deer. They were going to attack the deer and eat it. Now, he didn't care about deer. Because wolves eat deer, it's not a big deal. The problem is when wolves get so close to neighborhoods.
And then the other But they need to save the deer. And then
he's not worried about the deer. He's worried about after the deer, right? The kid walking home from school, or the dog in the backyard. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Bill eats a wolf.
Yes.
Oh, I know a perfect plan. Perfect.
Hold on. Let me tell you my story. Then you tell me your plan after the way you would have done it. So the middle brother, he saw the wolves circling the deer. He said to himself, there they are. Time to send the signal. So, I know, Jimmy, I'm almost done with my story.
I'm scared of the
I will. Let me finish my story.
I took my pill.
So the middle brother, he said to himself, time to send the signal. So he took his crossbow, he drew it back, he put an arrow in it, but this arrow had like...
paper on it?
No, not a piece of paper, like the material you put on the end of a torch. And he lit a flame at the end, and he shot it so that it went way up high. And his 2 brothers in the red armor and the blue armor, they saw the flaming arrow streaking through the sky. And they said to each other, there's the signal. Let's go find our brother. So they climbed down the trees. They went. Now, while the wolves were distracted surrounding the deer, the three brave, courageous brothers in their armor, they surrounded the wolves. Very quietly and stealthily, they pulled out their swords. A sword in one hand, a dagger in the other hand. And without...
They
Quick.
took the other weapons. They took some other weapons.
Yeah, but I mean, for their primary attack.
That's what's strapped to the back.
Okay, what?
The Bill had a sword and lances and a dagger.
Yes, he did. So now what you might be expecting is that the three brothers, they would be like, charge, and they'd run in and they'd start hacking up wolves and they'd defeat them. That was not the case. These brothers were skilled in the art of silent combat. So very quietly, one at a time, while the wolves were distracted, surrounding the deer and snapping at it and trying to bite at its legs, the three brothers, one at a time, very quietly, each on their own, would jump on a wolf's back and cut off its head. Now,
I'm scared.
well,
Daddy, I'm scared. Don't show that much scary parts.
okay. Well, okay, I'm just kidding. They didn't do that. They actually said, charge! And they didn't want to hurt the wolves because they didn't like hurting wild animals.
They just scraped them and scratched them.
They scraped them and scratched them, and they chased them. Now, the wolves, who nobody wanted to hurt or like cut off their heads or anything, the wolves started running, but the wolves didn't even know that the...
Cut off your head means stop it.
No blood in the story, nothing scary. The three boys with their armor and their swords and their daggers, they chased the wolves down a hill, through a ravine, over a creek. Now the wolves, they thought they were just running like wherever they wanted to run. They didn't know that the three boys were actually herding the wolves into the city zoo. And by the time the wolves found themselves cornered in a cage, not a cage, in a cave, they're like, oh, good. The wolves, like if they could think to themselves in human language, they were thinking, oh, good, we found a cave to hide in where those brave boys won't attack us anymore. And then they heard a gate slam. Ka-clink! It wasn't a real cave they were in. They were in a cave at the zoo. And the three brothers had trapped those wolves at the zoo, where they could live long, happy lives and eat delicious food and not terrorize anybody, and kids could come and look at them. Right? So those three brave, courageous brothers who were afraid of nothing gave each other high fives, and they walked back over the creek, through the ravine, up the hill, back to the house where they were staying. It's like kind of like a draw between two hills. Back up to the house where they were staying. They walked into the basement door. They went back down the secret passage. They put all the armor and the weapons back where they had found it. Then they walked up to the room. Nobody even knew they were gone. They crawled into the bunk bed, victorious that they had defeated the pack of wolves that was terrorizing the land of Georgia. The three bravest and most courageous boys in the whole wide world. And they lived happily ever after. The end.
Yay! Daddy, guess what I said?
Oh, Daddy, you know what my
Georgia.
plan was?
What?
My plan was waiting till they pounced on the deer, and then they scared them off.
Oh, but if they scared them off, then they would just go away and...
My part was the sticking thing.
Oh,
Mm.
I would.